Good to have Shabbos, everyone. Parshas Ekev. It's the last Shabbos in the month of Menachem Av. The Rebbe says that although we talk about all the elevations that we can do in the month of Av, that mima'atim, the things of Av with Simcha, and then we get to Tu B'Av. But at the end of the day, the month of Av is a month of dinim, of judgment, specifically starting from after the Chet HaEgel, after the sin of the golden calf. So we know Moshe Rabbeinu was up in heaven 3 times. The first time to receive the first luchos, the last time to receive the second luchos, and he came down on the day on Yom Kippur, that's why we say V'salachti kidvarecho. And like he says in this week's parsha, that the mechila, the forgiveness of the Jewish people, was in a way of ratzon, of a way of desire. But in between there was another 40 days that Moshe went up after Shabbos Parshas until Rosh Chodesh Elul. And those are the days that Moshe Rabbeinu tells us in this week's parsha that Hashem, there was a bit of a battle, a bit of an issue. It wasn't biratzin. God forgave the Jewish people, but it didn't have the level of desire that He had before the golden calf, by the time of the giving of the Torah, the first 40 days, and it didn't have it on the completion of the final 40 days, where Moshe was able to achieve tshuva and forgiveness and slicha to the level that God says, Salachti kitvarecha. So in these 40 days, that's from the 17th of Tammuz until Rosh Chodesh Elul, are the middle days, which are days of dinim, of judgment. And in this week's, and always Parshas Ekev falls out in the month of Menachem Av, which are in these days of judgment. So, like we always said, we have to analyze the parsha from beginning to end in its completion, not how it leads to something else. And we know that the haftarah of this week's parsha, in the 7 haftarahs of Nechama, of consolation. So we've talked many times about the Avodah Aram, that talks how the haftarahs go into each other. That it says Nachmu, Nachmu Amu. God tells the prophets to console the Jewish people, and the Jewish people respond in this week's haftarah. Vatomer Tzion, Zion says, which is referring to the Jewish people, Azavani Hashem, God has left me. Shechachachti, He forgot me. God has abandoned me and forgotten me. And then next week's haftarah, the prophets tell the God, Hashem, what the Jewish people said. And then in the 4th week, in the Parshas Shoftim, God says, Anochi, Menachnechem. God says, I myself will console you. I'm not going to send consolation through the prophets. So, but in this week's parsha, we're in the parsha of Azavani Hashem. We're feeling abandoned. We're feeling forgotten in these days of judgment, in the days of Menachem Av. And the name of the parsha also indicates that. It's Ekev. Ekev is a heel. Yaakov Kikotenhu. Yaakov feels small. Yisrael is the name of a person, of the Jewish person, how his snasus elevated, li roish. So how do we complete this parsha? We know that God responds to the Jewish people's feelings of abandonment, and we know that God responds to the Jewish people's feeling of being forgotten. And He says, "No, I myself will console you." But that's in 2 weeks from now. What about this week? So the lesson that we have to learn in this week is that we have to take the message and be productive in the situation of Ekev, and it's specifically in the situation of Ekev. And when a person feels sometimes low, when a person feels grounded in a non-positive way, like a heel that's on the floor, and a person may feel, how can I be productive? So we say, V'hoya Ekev tishmoin, a person actually is able to listen and do the mitzvahs even in such a situation, and specifically in such a situation. When you're feeling low, when you're feeling like an Ekev, when a person's able to reveal within themselves, you don't have the inspiration, you don't have the chayes, you don't have the energy, then nevertheless you're going to serve Hashem. You bring out the Kabbalah soul, you bring out the accepting of the yoke, the bittul, the self-nullification. It's not about myself. Like the Rebbe says that the wood that was given by the Bnei Yoyev ben Sruya, on the 20th of Av, we're just coming out of the Rebbe's father's yahrzeit, was specifically, they didn't feel great. They weren't feeling good about themselves. But they looked around and said, how could I help someone else? I may not feel great about myself, but I could do a tov, I could do a favor for someone else. I could help someone else. I could be productive. I'm not giving down. I'm giving up. I'm elevating myself by helping someone else. So when we have the Parshas Ekev, and we're feeling like a heel, we're feeling abandoned, we tell God, Azavani Hashem. We say, Shachachani, God forgotten us. So we may say that therefore we turn around, do nothing, we go back to sleep, we roll up in bed. No, Tishmon, we actually start now to be productive, because in every situation we can't be productive. And from being productive in difficult times, we're able to come to next week's parsha, which is a whole new level of re'eh. We have certainty, like we said last week, that there's the avodah of certainty and the avodah of Kabbalah soul, of amunah, of belief. And the idea is to elevate the belief and to elevate the certainty. So only after this week, when we have the avodah in Ekev, when we're feeling low, when we're not feeling great, when we're feeling abandoned, when we're feeling forgotten, and nevertheless we come, we serve Hashem, we bring wood, we look how we could lift ourselves up by helping others. So then we're able to come into next week's Parsha Re'eh, and with that vision, with that certainty, we should come with the certainty, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'meir Mamash, Good Shabbos.